Hi everybody, hope you're doing marvelously well. We're going to try out the FG-2A by Slate, which of course is the LA2A emulation. So I did actually play around with this about a week ago, just before it came out, and they took a little snippet video and put it up, so you may have watched that. So what I want to do here is I want to put it on all individual elements of a mix and see if I can use it as my main compressor. The LA2A is a very famous compressor. What I do like so far about playing with this is I think it has a better release time, to be quite frank. The LA2A in its natural state, at least for me, in my humble opinion, I can't get too aggressive with it sometimes because it doesn't release fast enough. This, on my initial experience with it, has been really very usable. So I'm not sure what they've been tweaking about it, but they seem to, in typical fashion, improve some things about it, at least in a modern application. Vintage equipment, of course, all has an inherent thing that we love. You can look around, I've got tons of great things, but most of us, if we even do have an LA2A, have one, possibly two. But of course, the wonderful world of plugins allows us to get that and use it all over the place. So we're going to open up a song here, and I'm going to put it on a whole bunch of different applications and see how it works. There's a sound of the LA2A which I really like, and I think is a favorite of many people's, particularly on vocals. It seems to have a smoothness to it. There's some extra packed-in features with this, of course, with the high pass built in, which is wonderful. And of course, a mix control, meaning you can get there and annihilate the sound and then blend it back and just dial in what you want. So let's have some fun with it. Let's try it out. So firstly, I have a drum track set up here. Now, firstly, this is just all the organic elements. Let's give it a listen in bypass. That live kick has got a lot of like resonance, which I actually like. But with that amount of low end coming out of a kick drum, typically with most compressors, whether it be hardware, of course, software, if they don't have a high pass feature on it, that low end immediately just annihilates the compression and controls the amount of compression. So in its default setting, let's give it a listen. And you can hear how much it's capturing of that. So the first thing we're going to do is go down here and move it to the left, and you're going to hear the low end come back. There's all the way to the left. Now I'm going to bring it up a little bit because, of course, the gain reduction means that there's quite a difference in volume. Pretty tasty on that snare now, isn't it? Similar volume in the track. It's in bypass. Now bring it back on. But it's just got more energy. So let's hear it in the track.
Think you're gonna pull your socks off? Get it, boy, won't get your rocks off. Backseat, lay me down.
Bypass it.
No sleeves that you found. Backseat, lay me down. No
pretty anticlimactic in bypass. Bring it back on.
Get it, boy, won't get your rocks off. Backseat, lay me down. No sleeves that you found.
Now, it's just for snits and sniggles. Like what it's doing to the snare now, but let's use it and bring the mix control down. I like that pumping compression underneath, but because we brought the mix control down to just slightly over 50%, I'm getting the dry signal and that parallel destroyed sound together. That might be my favorite. Right, in the track.
Me down. I ain't no sleaze that you found. Backseat, lay me down. I ain't no sleaze that you found. Think you're gonna pull your socks off. Get it, boy, won't get your rocks off.
Compressor back on.
Lay me down. I ain't no sleaze that you found. Backseat, lay me down. I ain't no sleaze that you found. Think you're gonna pull.
Great, so love what it's doing there. Let's go to the bass. So this has a synth bass line playing octaves. Here it is in bypass, just so you can hear the original. So obviously we want to preserve that low end. So of course, as soon as we turn it on, it's going to annihilate the low end. So we'll go and use our high pass frequency down here. So as you turn it to the left, it's going to compress the high frequencies more because the sidechain is high passing. It's allowing low end to go through. So let's have a listen. Game match it. It's really nice. It's actually making the low end feel a lot more even now. So you don't have that really super low end note just bouncing out. Two together. Bypass the bass. Back in. Bypass. Just for schnitz and schniggles, I am going to put this on to limit and hit it even harder. Yeah, I like that. I don't mind it being more aggressive. Perfect. All right, let us move on to the vocals, which is probably where the LA-2A originally is at its most famous. Now, in my short demonstration of this before that was up on the Slate channel, I used this particular vocal, and I'm going to use it again because it's incredibly dynamic. A lot of people commented on that video saying when you have heavy dynamics like that, you can draw them up, and I agree, you can automate them. I love doing automation. But remember, that's not the only reason why we use compressors. In the old days, frankly, it was the only reason. I mean, people were trying to design compressors which had almost no personality. They just even the signal out. However, we've now discovered that, yes, you can get in there and automate and draw stuff in, but compressors have their own sound. And that's why companies make emulations, because they're trying to capture that classic sound. So let's give it a listen.
You've got your other one, the one that you go to when my hands are full. You've got a right to love, but this isn't right by me. I can feel you hiding.
So let's bypass it.
You've got your other one, the one that you go to when my hands are full. You've got a right to love, but this isn't right by me.
It sounds good in bypass, but it doesn't quite have that fullness and the upfrontness that it does when it's turned on.
You've got your other one, the one that you go to when my hands are full. You've got a right to love, but this...
I haven't even played around with the high passing there. I don't know if I need to. You know, Lily is an amazing singer, but she doesn't have like a huge amount of low end in there. So I don't think there's a lot of low end in that vocal performance that is capturing it. I mean, we can move it so the compression's working more on the high frequencies, but I don't think it's going to make a huge difference.
You've got your other one, the one that you go to when my hands are full. You've got a right to love, but this isn't right by me. I can feel you hiding.
Maybe a subtle amount. I think either way, it sounded great in both directions. So let's listen to those three elements together.
You've got another life, it's taking its toll on you. I can feel you fading. Never one thing at a time. There's always something left behind. You've got another life, it's taking its toll on.
Great. I want to throw some guitars in. So we have a guitar bus here. This is the guitars in bypass. Bring it on. There's something when you hear like something tubey, valvey, as soon as it starts to work, once I get the balance, you know, so there's no actual difference in volume, it just sort of feels, I don't know, feels prettier, but just does that little sheen. Bypass. That's great, but it's sharp. Bring it on. It just starts to sound like a record, doesn't it? It's like when I listen to mixers that I admire, there's a lot of just like kind of emulations that they're using in a mixing process just to kind of tickle, and just tickling the guitars there, at least to me. And I'm sure on YouTube it's a subtle difference, but you can hear a subtle difference. Bypass again. Bring it back on. Around the bass.
You've got another life, it's taking its toll on you. I can feel you fading. Never one thing at a time. There's always something left behind. You've got another life, it's taking its toll on you. I can feel you fading.
Now, for many of you, you're probably using virtual instruments like synths, etc. So I've got 3 sets of synths here that are playing in the song. Let's have a listen. Let's turn it on and have a listen. You can tell I'm getting more and more aggressive with it. I like the pumping sound that's working with the kick, and that's the way they were printed. But I'm also trying to bring out that little synth line that's playing inside of the keys. I like what it's doing to the high-end sizzle, and I'm hearing more of that high end. And I brought it all the way over so it was more aggressive on the high frequencies than the low. Which is sort of revert, we talked about earlier, it's kind of a reverse way of talking to how people describe high-pass filters. But I think, it's common sense. The more you bring it over, the more it's compressing the high end and not the low end. And to be honest, that might be a more straightforward way of describing it for many people. Overall volume's a little bit more, but I'm also hearing more of the high line. So let's listen to that with the bass, drums, and guitar. Ridiculously over the top keyboards. Let's bring them down, but I do love it. So Slate has lots of different bundles that this comes in, so go and check it out below. You may already have access to this and be using it. I feel like, for me, this has one of two extremes of uses that we tried here. One, which is kind of crushing and really getting a quite unique sound, and then paralleling it, mixing it back in so that you've got some of the direct sound and some of this newly kind of destroyed compression. Then, like we did on the guitars, just that little bit of a sheen. And of course, the vocal was pretty remarkable. It really brought it forward and made it infinitely better. When I think of the records that I grew up listening to, and LA-2A is a very, very specific and very significant part of that sound. It's something, for me at least, growing up in the UK, as a uniquely American thing. We didn't have that many LA-2As in studios I went to. There was a couple around. There was a lot more 160 VUs and definitely 1176s. So when I hear this, it reminds me of a very New York and California sound. I know that both Jack Douglas and Shelley Yakus and all of those guys used them in New York, but I also feel like it reminds me of very Southern Californian feel-good sound. There's something really nice about the sound of an LA-2A on a vocal, and particularly on guitars. They just have a little tiny extra bit of a shimmer to it. So please leave a bunch of comments and questions below. Have a marvelous time recording and mixing, and we'll see you all again very soon. So long, farewell, auf Wiedersehen, adios, adio, goodbye, farewell.